Hey everybody, welcome back to Coffee Chats. Today is a special edition, double shot coffee chat, because today you are going to be getting a very special presentation from a very special guest, in addition to some educational material and story time from Kyra and myself as well.
I'm so excited for this one. And to launch our time together, we got to do a beverage chat. It is a coffee chat after all. So I am having some afternoon tea, and me being a cringy alumna. Yeah, I'm really excited just for this time and to have a hot beverage because it's cold outside. What about you, Mackenzie?
I'm actually having, this used to be filled with a big glass of ice because I'm from Texas and I brewed my tea hot and then poured it into a big cup of ice to have my iced tea for the afternoon.
That's big brain energy.
It's also not snowing where I am, so.
You know what? You don't have to brag about it. I'm in Cleveland, so I am literally smacked with all of the snow. It's so cold, but it's okay. We're surviving.
Sorry. All right. So without further ado, we will introduce our guest and just get things started here. Hello.
Hello. So I'm doing tea as well in my Google swag cup from my old job when I did online marketing. You get all sorts of free swag. So there you go.
Amazing.
We love to see it.
We would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience, who you are, what you do.
Okay, so some of you may know me. I am a development editor for Creative Institute. I've helped many folk through this process and then decided to do it myself. So I wrote my book, I think October 20, I don't even remember, 2020. So I'm a fiction author, urban fantasy. I am an author. I love saying that, by the way. I say that all the time. I'm a published author. Don't let anybody ever take that from you, by the way. None of this self-pub trap, self-pub authors are not real authors because they didn't get published by a traditional company. You're an author. Own it. But it's amazing. So I published an urban fantasy book in August of last year is when it finally came out. It's very exciting. And I'm working on book 2, actually. Editing in process. Book 3, rough draft is done. So I am editing book 2 and book 3 is coming.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
All right, Cassandra, what do you have for us today?
I am going to be sharing how the person who, I should have known what my cover looked like. I had no clue. I'm going to share with you my process of how I got to the cover that I ended up getting to.
Amazing. Do share.
Okay, cool. I'll do the share thing. Share screen. Yeah, this is like new stuff for me. Sorry, y'all. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing.
It's new for us, too. We're here for it.
This is the beauty of a live performance. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. Let's see what it's doing. Okay, share screen. There we go. I'll just do that. So now it's... Can y'all see it?
Ooh.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is for those... This is for people... Okay, it is for when you have no clue, but it is also for people who do have an idea. You still want to go through these steps to make sure that you are 100% solid on what your book design should look like, my book cover, because people do judge your book by the cover. 100%. There are like hundreds of TikTokers out there who talk about all of the books they bought based on the cover. So it's still a thing. Step 1. Research. Now, Brian Bias will tell you in the video that he puts out, you want to look at over 100 book covers for research. It's a lot. It's a lot of books. I'm just saying it takes a lot of time. But what you want to think about when you're doing the research, doesn't matter what genre you are, nonfiction, fiction, poetry, memoir, you want to look first in your own genre. And specifically, if you are in another country, you want to look in your country genre versus the US. If you're in the US, you want to stick to the US because the covers are different internationally. I actually really loved some of the German covers that I saw in my genre, and I couldn't use them because they were not US friendly, so to speak. So stick to your audience as well as your genre. So you want to look at fonts. You want to look at what the cover design and aesthetics are. Are there colors? Are there images or no images? What types of images are they? Are they real? Are they illustrated? Are they drawings? Are they a cartoon? Is it just designs? Is it photo illustrated? Is basically taking a photo and making it more cartoon-ish, like, I guess is the best way to describe it. My cover is photo illustrated. So when I was doing my research for my cover, I looked at urban fantasy because that is my genre. And I looked specifically at the top sellers in my genre, authors that I knew did urban fantasy and did it well. And what I found was they all kind of use the similar design. And that's what you want to look at. For nonfiction, look in your genre, 100% look in your genre. If you're doing business or self-help or psychology, or I had an urban planner. I've had a variety of different books that I've worked with. Look at your genre as well. You want to look at it first, and then you can go broad. And what you want to do when you do the research is figure out what you like, but more importantly, figure out what you don't like. If you don't like curvy fonts, if you don't like lots of scroll work in your font, or if you like the white space, you like seeing the colors pop off the page and there's a lot of white space around the cover. Those are the things that you want to look at. Really, you want to dive in deep. Where is the title? Where is the author's name? Do you like it at the top? Do you like it at the bottom? Is it smaller? Is it larger? What does the subtitle look like for those nonfiction books? Is the subtitle smaller? Where is it placed on the page? What is the balance? And it really is your own aesthetic. You have to, think about what your book is about and make sure that the cover matches that as best you can for how you view your book. So you do all this research. You can go on Amazon, go to top sellers for your genre, look specifically at your genre, and then kind of broaden out to see if there's anything else you really want to see. There's some new covers out there. You can always use Google as well, do top nonfiction business book and see what covers show up. And I think Mackenzie and Kyra will also be sharing some of that. So this is what my research looked like. So step 2, involve your fans. So you want to first decide what you think you want. And then you put together, I put this in Canva. I put this together in Canva. I got the covers off of Goodreads because you can get them really easily off of Goodreads. You create a board in Canva for free. And then ask your fans, what do they like? What are their top 3s? What do they like and why? So this particular selection are some of the books in my genre. Jim Butcher, Sinead McGuire, Benedict Jacka, and PC Cast are all really big names in my genre. These other books were books that I just really liked the look of. I liked the color. I liked the way that the characters popped. But as you can see, with the exception of a couple, most of my genre have the images on the cover. Like you have the full image. So I threw it out to my fans and they gave me great feedback. A lot of them liked number 5 because it has, if you look really closely, it's got hands pushing against the crystal ball, which I thought was really cool. I liked the color as well in that one. They found some of them to be not as interesting. They didn't like, surprisingly, the top genre, the Jim Butcher, number 1 and number 2, Sinead McGuire, even though those people are well-known authors in the genre. They didn't like the covers at all. They found them. I mean, it is kind of dated. Let's be fair. Stormfront came out, I think, 20 years ago. So it's a little bit dated. But some of them liked 7 because it was so simple. So you kind of take what they like and what they don't like. And then you completely ignore it because you find something that you like better. I didn't stop looking at covers once I found kind of the 6 that I liked or the 7 that I liked. So this series I found, again, scrolling through my genre, and what I liked about it so that you can understand how I'm looking at it. I liked that I'm planning on having more than one book in my series. So that's part of my decision making. I liked that there is a key component in every single image. She's got the hat. She's got the red coat, but each of the backgrounds are different. They have different colors. They have different imagery. There's a bird in 2 of them, but that doesn't really matter because it's not in every single one. Also, the way that the body shaped, I didn't want a full figure face on my cover. I decided that pretty early on. But then I looked at her pieces. I didn't like that her name is at the top. I wanted my name at the bottom. I wanted the title of the book at the top. So while I love this, I didn't like her fonts and I didn't like the positioning of her fonts. Okay, so this is what I ended up going with as my ideal cover type or look and feel. Then you want to create a mood board. So I know you're thinking, mood board, but it's really easy to do in Canva, really easy to do in Canva. They've got loads of templates. I started with the one on the right, which is really simple. You pick your images, you pick your colors. Now, I went kind of crazy with the colors and was really specific about the colors I wanted to see in my book because I'd been author branding those specific colors. But I also wanted the woods to be there because a lot in my book happens in the woods, and my book has a lot of book related themes. So I wanted the books to be in there. So think about your mood board as to what impact do you want to make on the reader, and what facets of your book. So for nonfiction, it could be that you want to have some formulas on there. If you want to talk mathematics or any kind of like business, if you're doing law, well, I wouldn't go with the tried and true tropes of the scales of justice. You could have something like that on there, or a gavel on there if you have a law-based theme. So think about the concepts in your book and then put together a mood board based on that. And pull in colors, fonts. You can play around with fonts. There are not loads of fonts on Canva, but there's a lot. There's a lot of fonts on Canva. So you can get a better sense for, do you like the serif fonts, which are the ones with the curly, so that everybody understands the difference. The ones with the curly, the ends or tops, they're very curly, or sans serif, which means without all the curls, and get a better sense for that. Also, when you're doing your research, you can do a search for what's most popular or most used in your genre. So for nonfiction, they tend to do more sans serif fonts on the covers. In fiction, it depends. The fantasy are very, very curly Q, very kind of ornate. But in mystery, they go for sans serif. They go for very kind of blocky font types. So these are all of the things. Colors as well. I didn't mention that when I was talking about the research, but some specifically in fiction, for example, some of the genres are specific to the kinds of colors they want to see. Urban fantasy is going to be greens and purples and blues, whereas crime books are going to be reds and yellows and blacks. Horror is going to be, a darker shades with splashes of color, for example. So when you do your research, definitely go outside of Amazon and also take a look at, kind of what people are saying are the best colors and fonts and themes for your book. So I didn't like this particular mood board. I found it didn't have enough of what I wanted. So I went a little bigger. So this is my final mood board with one picture changed out for this because there's a Easter egg in my book cover that I don't want anyone to see unless they figure it out on their own. But so you can see kind of what I put together. I have the town where it takes place. I have that it takes place by a creek in the forest. I have a color scheme. I really wanted purples and turquoises. I have kind of what my girl looks like, or what I thought my character looks like, although I don't really describe her in the book. You do not have to do the hex numbers for the colors. I was just being really uptight about it. They're gonna pick colors. They're gonna pick colors in your range, but they might pick a color. The designer might pick a color that's a little more balanced than that. So now you have your mood board. What do you do with it? You mock up your cover. You're thinking, I thought we had a designer for this. Yeah, you do. You do. But Brian will give you guys a template. The template is, I think he has it in 3 formats. I think one for Google Docs, one for PowerPoint, and one for the Mac version of PowerPoint. I don't know what it's called, but you know what I mean, if you own a Mac. So he'll give you, and it's literally like a box next to another box. So you put the cover that you like as your cover of choice, and then you kind of try and mock up what you want yours to look like. His video, by the way, goes through this in detail. So do take a look at his video. It's pretty cool. And it shows you how he designed his cover using someone else's cover. So I'm going to show you my mock, and I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. It's cringy. It's cringy. My design skills. Yeah, I'm not a designer. I'm a writer. Here we go. This is my mock. So on the left is the book that I really liked as the first one because it had a lot of the features that I wanted, the down face, the colors in the background. I didn't want to go pink, but and then on the right is what I did. So I obviously moved the title to the top. I moved the author name to the bottom. I'm an idiot, by the way. I drew the picture of what I wanted the girl on the cover to look like, but then I was on Twitter and all my Twitter friends were like, here's some, but it was already too late. I'd already submitted my cover document to the team. So use the free photos that are available out there. There are Pixel Bay and some of the others that I know the social media team have shared with you guys to find images that you think work best for your cover. Something that you can do that is not copyrightable because you're not taking it and using it in commercial use is I've done screenshots, like snippets of images that I liked that were on iStock, for example, that were you have to purchase them in order to own them, but it'll give the designer a better sense for what you want your cover to look like. Kind of the composition of your cover is what you want to go for here. And you'll see, like I said, the changes I made. And then step 4. So NDP will provide you with a cover brief and you're going to meet your designer. And so use the template, fill it out. I'm assuming nothing has really changed, but it kind of includes who you are, what the name of your book is right now. Keep in mind, you can change the title up into the point where they really need you not to change your title. And that's at the point when you are registering for your ISBN and when your designer is trying to put together your book cover. Your informal author name, they kind of want to know what the book is about. It gives them a better sense for when they're putting the designs together, what type of flow and image to give you, composition to give you. Your book genre and your audience demographics, as you can see here. I had urban fantasy, I had mystery. 5 covers you liked and why. Now, this is where your research comes in handy. So you're going to want to link to the 5 covers, what you liked about them. You want to use specific language. Brian talks about this in his video as well, but you really want to think about when you say, and I say this a lot in here, you'll see the color is vibrant. What does that mean to me versus what that means to the designer? It could be 2 very different things. Like I wanted it to shine and pop off the page. So you want to be very specific about the language you use when you are talking about your cover. You can't just say, oh, well, it's colorful. What does that mean? Does it have 3 colors? Does that 5 colors? Is that splashes of colors everywhere? Or is it a mix of colors or a range of colors? In general. You'll also be including your mood board, which is why you include it, and your mock-up. So this is the package that you put together. You send it to the main guys. They'll give you all of this information in your updates room. And then you have a conversation with your designer. In that 30-minute call, they're going to be looking at your favorite books. They're going to be looking at your mock-up. And the designer is going to put together on the fly in 20 minutes, and I'm saying this for a reason, what the design concept of your book cover is. And I'm going to be the concept, not the reality, what it's going to look like at the end. Because when you see my mock-up, you're going to be like, I don't think that's very good. It's not very good, but it is the concept. It's a concept. They're doing it on the fly, so they're not going to have it perfectly. They will talk to you about fonts. So you can go back and forth with fonts, and they'll put fonts in the comment, and you can look at it and go, oh, I like this font, I like that font. So they do it on the fly, but they're peppering you with different choices and different ideas as to what it should kind of look like. And then you get your mock. This is my mock. I did not write a horror book. I did not write anything like a horror book. Obviously, this looks pretty sad. Like you're looking at this thinking, oh no. And I was too. I'm not gonna lie. I had a moment of panic, but don't panic. What this picture is I wanted a forest background. I wanted a girl image in the forest. I basically, he has it fuller length than I wanted. I wanted it kind of thigh high. That's where I put my image. I wanted my name on the bottom. So, and they kind of messed around with fonts just a little bit. These are some of the fonts they came up with based on what I liked, because I didn't like the sans serif, the very straight kind of geometric fonts. I liked the curly fonts. Okay, so you have this conversation. They go away, I think 3 weeks, give or take later. It's been a while. They come back and they give you your designs. Now, I'm not going to show you more designs just yet. So you get your 3 or 4 cover concepts. And what you do before you do anything else, before you share it with anyone. And they will also give you a document detailing all this out, by the way, so you don't have to remember, but kind of do this on your own anyway. Pick what you liked about the covers, all of them. Figure out what it is you liked about each one, what you didn't like and wanted to change. Make notes. Did the images they picked work for you? Do you want a different image? Because they can do that, but you want to do that in the beginning. You don't want to do that at the end. What is your first pick right now? If you had to pick your cover and say that one, it's got to go. It's got to be that one. And then you share with your fans. So once you do that work, then you put together in Canva or in PowerPoint, or I think I did mine in Canva. You share with your fans and you give them a survey as to which cover they liked best. Now, some authors put all of the covers on the first page and then have their fans look at all three at once and answer questions. I did one at a time, and then I put them all at the end of my survey. I put them all on the survey so that they can see a snapshot of what they all look like side by side. So I asked individual cover questions, and then on the next page, they got the next book, and the next page, they got the next book. And then I had them tell me, when they could see them all side by side, which one they liked the best. And I left open text space for them to fill in, because I got some really useful information from the ones who chose to answer the long answer text about what they liked and didn't like. These are my three covers. So this is what came out of that. So these are the three colors. The cover on the left is like this because I thought I wanted an illustrated cover. To be quite frank, I didn't understand the difference. But it's because I wanted an illustrated cover, so they provided me one. The cover in the middle is most like my design. The cover on the end was dealer's choice, or cover designer choice, basically. They asked me if I was all right with the designers coming up with their own idea of what the cover should look like based on the information that I gave them and the books that I liked. So these are my base designs. I threw them out to my followers, and everybody was kind of between 1 and 2. What they liked about 1 was her eyes were showing. What they liked about 2 is they liked the design better on 2. They liked the book and the shimmery fuzziness. And so you'll get these 3 designs. Now, these are flat designs. There's not a lot of texture to them. There's not a lot of depth to them. There's not going to be until you pick the one you want to go with. Okay, so just moving on. Now you'll see which one I picked. So the original design is on the left. So after you go through that whole process of talking to your fans, you come back, you tell them which one you want to go with, and then you work with them to finalize the design. Now, when you look at this, you can see the differences. Most of my fans didn't like that the image of the girl was too far forward. So I had them push it back. Some of this is actually a little bit of a controversy, because some of them liked that the eyes weren't showing and some of them didn't. Well, I liked that the eyes were showing, so I had to change it to have the eyes. I wanted her to have more texture. I wanted it to be a little less photoreal. So they've added some pieces there. We changed the font. So if you look at the font, I'm just going to scroll really quickly. On the finalized design, you see the deep space between is on 3 lines, and it's not in this triangular format. But if you look at the original design, that is design 3, which I did not go with because I felt it was too YA for my book, for representation of my book. But I liked the setup. I liked the deep space between at the top. I liked that the 2 words were spread out across the between. I didn't like the author name, though. I liked the author name for book 2, which is what they ended up going with. So you're going to go back and forth with your designer and get all of these amazing, and you can just pack and choose. And by the way, if you look at in between, you'll see that there are branches coming in through the letters. The designer chose to do that while we were editing and fixing and revising my cover to get it to how I wanted it to look. So I had him make the between smaller. I had to create more space. I wanted a little more purple. Like, these are some of the things that I brought in. I wanted the eyes of the girl on the cover to be green. I wanted her hair to be more brown. Like, these are the little tiny changes that I made that they did in the final process, and the cover is actually gorgeous. And at the very end, in phase 2, you get the full cover. Now, you will be working with your designer to do the spine. You'll be working with your designer to do the look and feel of the blurb in the back. I've seen some really good blurbs, by the way, so do pay attention to the blurbs, the blurb design, the back cover design for some of the books that you like, because I've seen some of my fellow authors' books since I did mine, and I'm like, oh, that was really cool. I wish I would have done that. So do work with your designer on the back cover blurb, how you want it to appear, the different fonts, the different colors, the different text. You'll see that they have kind of some different fonts there that are showing up, or different sized fonts or different color fonts. And so we played around a lot with that final design on the back cover as well. So it's not just the image, but it is the back cover as well, because you need to be happy with this, because it's going to go out into the world forever. And I think that is my last slide, ladies.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that presentation with us. And if you will, stick around while Kyra and I share our presentation as well. We're going to have time for questions at the end. So once again, you guys, if you have any questions, and some of you have, drop them in the chat as you come up with them, and we will address them during question time at the end. All right.
I learned so much from that presentation. I mean, I always do.
All right.
Ta-da!
Yes, it is working. Ha ha ha. All right. So as with many things that Kyra and I do, we have to start with memes, because it helps, set the tone.
Contextualize, if you will.
If you enjoy starting meetings with memes, go and check out our audience building boot camp also on this channel. We judge books by covers here. That metaphor is meant for everything else except for books.
Yes. Literally.
So we'll talk about a few things and reiterate just quickly on a few things that Cassandra mentioned. Do a little bit of story time, and then let you have question time. So here is, if you retain nothing else, what you need to know going through the cover design process, particularly at New Degree Press, or if you're just going through the cover design process in general, a lot of these things still apply to you. Do market research. Generate 2 cover concepts to present to your designer. Have the cover design call. You'll receive cover drafts back, and then you will ask for feedback from your community and just iterate. It'll be a lot of little details, like Cassandra said, and you'll see in our story time, we show quite a bit of little detailed changes. So this is that general process. Think about what you want your cover to look like. Now, a lot of these questions, and I loved when Cassandra was talking about these, you ask yourself these questions, but then also ask yourself why you feel that way. And that will help you figure out how you want to talk to your designer about the things that you like and don't like about book covers. So no shade to these guys, but also shade because when you Google bad book covers, this is what comes up. So Kyra.
So effectively, to Cassandra's earlier point and what Mackenzie was just saying, it really is important to ask yourself why to determine what you like. I mean, sometimes it's hard to articulate what you like right away, but the way in which you arrive to what you enjoy seeing in a cover can be in acknowledging what you like in other covers and what you definitively do not like in other covers that you see. Like, for example, I just happen to know that I'm obsessed with serif fonts, but that's literally all I knew about covers. Like, I just knew that I loved serif fonts. Other than that, I was completely lost. So in going through this process and in designing this illustrious presentation with Mackenzie, we found a few covers and we started to make comments about some of the things we enjoyed, about some of the covers that are acclaimed for their beauty. So this All Adults here, I believe Mackenzie said, I like the hand lettering for the subtitles.
I do.
For The Feather Thief, partial coverings of the title. I think the interaction between the letters and the scenery is very engaging. Yes. The Children of Blood and Bone, first of all, excellent book. Kind of biased, but just the whole notes of the scheme like the color tones are really emblematic of what the general tone of the entire book is. And to Cassandra's earlier point, it really does evoke a lot pertaining to genre. So it's all about asking yourself those little questions, and it can be kind of fun. It's like taking a personality quiz on BuzzFeed.
Totally. So here are a couple examples of popular books in these particular genres. Looking in other books at your genre will help you come up with ideas for your book in particular. Atomic Habits, we made this presentation many moons ago, but now that book is selling like hotcakes right now. I think it's kind of the new year, new me thing that that marketing team, I tell you what, but also a great book. One thing that I want to mention that is noteworthy is particularly for memoir authors. A lot of authors in the past have said, what do I do to design my book? Should I put my face on the cover? You see that a lot with especially celebrities, which that's their marketing, is their face and their name recognition, face recognition. So like their name will be huge and their face will be very prominent. But if that's not for you and you don't have to do it, look at other memoir books, particularly this one, where there is no face. But also love this cover. Very compelling. You might not be able to see, but there's a little person kind of in the middle of that cover, like almost climbing a mountain, but the mountain's a pencil. So that one's great. So looking at recent bestsellers at the time of making this presentation, about 6 months ago, maybe, these were particularly high on the charts. And so looking at bestsellers and recognizing that people do tend to buy covers because they're pretty, in addition to the book contents being acclaimed, start to look at patterns. For example, like Cassandra mentioned, illustrated covers are really popular right now. And an illustrated cover example is The People We Meet on Vacation here. So especially if you're writing in romance, think about an illustrated cover. Just saying. All right, Kyra. Who are these? Where did these come from?
So these are some of a lot of the covers that we make here at New Degree Press are stunning, but here's just a selected handful of some of our personal favorites. So as you can see, it's sort of the run of the gamut of across a variety of different genres, and we navigate the balance between genre expectations and, of course, the author's personal style. So we have Into the Orange Grove, which is a poetry book. We have While You Were Away, which is a bit of a contemplative, realistic fiction book reflecting on the pandemic. We have The Fundraiser, which is about fundraising. We have The Spectacle, which is about coming to own one's identity. There are just so many different aspects of this. And basically, this slide is meant to demonstrate how you can still adhere to genre expectations. You can still make the most of your market research and not feel like your personal branding or your personal style gets lost in the sauce.
I accidentally went ahead, but that was good timing.
It was.
I accidentally hit the space bar. Okay, so my book, I tried to show, this is not even all of the iterations, but it is almost all. I couldn't fit all of the versions on here. But on the far left is my initial mock-up that I sent to my designer, where I was like, this is my idea. What do you think? Make it pretty. And so one of the first ones that they sent back to me is going to be this top left example. And when I first saw it, I was like tearing up because I was like, this is it. This is like what I was picturing and somehow so much better. And so as you can see, we kind of iterated on the frame. We iterated on the molding on the floor, what the floor looked like. I wanted it to look a little more realistic and not so cartoonish like this one down here at the bottom left. We looked and talked about the matting of the frame. We talked about the glass and the glare and whether or not it was to be there, the coloring of the wall behind it, the bolding of the subtitle, placement, all the things, ultimately to bring us to this very last version of Beyond the Halls. And someone did ask a question in the chat, where do you put your subtitle? Do you want to put it on top? Do you want to put it on bottom? Totally up to you. Think about your subtitle in the context of its placement and the story that you want to tell. what do you want people to read first? Because naturally, they're probably going to read from top to bottom. And if your subtitle works in such a way that you want it on top, nothing wrong with that. My 2 cents. And as an added bonus, I threw in my mood board preview that I made last week for my cover designer for my new book, The Artifact Hunter. So again, made this in Canva, super easy, not super hard. And they'll even give you like sample color templates to pick. So down here in the bottom right, there's like these color, you can just pick a palette. You don't have to be an expert in color theory. You can just pick a palette and it'll put it there for you. And I'm like, I love this warm neutral palette. I'm just going to slap that on there. So very simple, straightforward.
So my cover journey was a little bit different. Similarly to Cassandra, I also wrote a fiction book, but mine is more in the dystopian fantasy space. I guess you could say that it's dark fantasy, dystopian magical realism, speculative fiction, if you will. So as opposed to making multiple iterations on one core image, I had clear senses of, again, using advice similarly to what Cassandra mentioned about focusing on key images in the book. I approached it from, I knew that there were symbols that I wanted to have incorporated in my cover because they were emblematic of specific moments that were sacred to the we, which is the main collective group inside of my story. But I wasn't sure which symbol warranted being on the cover. So as you can see, we have trees in one, we have fire in another, and just leaves on 2 of them. So when I went to my broader author community and asked, hello, I did a Google form and asked for their input on each one. Admittedly, my first reaction was I loved the general design of the first one, but I was drawn to the color palette of the second one, not just because I thought the colors were striking, but because those 2 colors in particular play a huge role in the story itself. And so what ultimately ended up happening, I got my feedback from my beta readers. What's interesting is that overwhelmingly, they also gravitated more towards the first 2 and kind of were at odds as to, we love the colors of the second one. We love the design of the first one. So they were grappling the same way that I was. So ultimately, it's funny because the first one was kind of like, as Cassandra mentioned earlier, kind of like the dealer's choice, because my mock-ups were a little bit more around like the second, third, and not so much the fourth one, but particularly the second and third one. So I ultimately went with the first one as the base, but I had to incorporate that rich violet purple from the second one into my final design. Also, capital letters are huge for me. I like it when things are capitalized. Fun fact about Kyra. So that had to be there too. And that's how we arrived with the We in the Bed cover.
Yeah, the majority of the letters on that cover, overwhelming majority, are capitalized.
Mm-hmm.
I like it too.
Thank you.
Okay, bonus round. So we've also added Emily's book to our presentation as well. So this is Emily Vandervent, just released this book last month. She's another author coach. You can find her information and Instagram in the description below. On the far left, you'll see her mock-up that she sent to her cover designer. And then she sent me all of these iterations. And I was having such a time of playing guess the difference, like find the difference between these because they're very subtle. So as you can see, the first one's got a ton of clouds. So she told her editor, tone down the clouds a little bit. And then she felt that there was a little bit of empty space. So she added the cannons, and then she added 2 cannons instead of just 1 cannon. And then toning down the redness in her hair to be a little bit more like the description of her red hair in the book. And then in addition to this, the whole direction is inspired by the first book. So it is a little bit of cover continuity, which is important to think about. So you'll notice that the fonts are the same, the positioning of the subtitle, and this is an example where the subtitle's on top, the positioning of the author name, the size and print of the book when it is completed and sits pretty on the shelf. The colors and mood and tone mean something. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but they are important within the context of these works. So you might find some books that the entire series has a continuity of one color, or just somehow in the design it's continuous. You will also find in some books, traditionally published ones, in fact, that multiple edition, like in the trilogy, are not even printed in the same size book, which like absolutely, and I'm not talking thickness, I'm talking like the height of the cover, and you're like, but it's a trilogy, how are you going to sell a box set? You're not. Like that's just my like personal tea on that one there. Yeah. So that is all we have for you today on presentation mode. Now we're opening up the floor to questions. So as we open up the floor to questions and I look through the chat, I would love to ask Cassandra, do you have any final words of wisdom when it comes to cover design?
Have fun with it. Don't let your inability to pick the right image, don't let it has to be perfect. No, the mock is an idea. It's a concept. As you can see from all the different books, some people chose Dealer's Choice, some people didn't choose Dealer's Choice. So think more about kind of what it needs to represent, what it needs to feel like when someone looks at it. You want it to feel a certain way? And don't let it has to be perfect. It doesn't, because you're going to change it. You might have a cover that you love and come out with a completely different cover because you realize, no, that one's better. I like that one better. And the other point, your fans are lovely. They're awesome, but they are also subjective. They all have their own viewpoints as to what something looks like. So take their advice as far as you want to take it, but don't take it as gold.
That's a great point, because you're the one who has to live with it at the end of the day and look at it constantly, because it will always be around.
Represents your brand. You want
that too.
Ultimately, that's why you want to start with that process of what do you like about it? What's your first cover? What do you want to change? Start there before you get everybody else's input, because then suddenly you'll get muddled if you don't do that first. Or at least I would.
That's a great point. Well, we do have one question here in the chat, which I think is an adorable one. Did you look at the frames of actual paintings as sort of a highbrow reference or Easter egg? And I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I could make something up and tell you that I did, but I didn't. I just picked one that I really liked. Now, I will say it is, and I'm looking at it right now, it is a gold frame, pretty standard to what you'd find circling a lot of post-impressionist art. So we're talking like Victorian era, 19th century, late 19th century paintings, which are my favorite kind of paintings. So I think that's why I was so drawn to this frame. I was like, that is the one, because I love a gold frame. I really do.
I do have an Easter egg hidden in my cover too.
Tell us about it.
Well, I can't tell you what it is, but there's an Easter egg in the cover. It's hidden in the design. I was very specific about I wanted it to be there. It will feature actually later in the series, because it's a 9-book series. So it'll become a much bigger deal as we get older, further down the track. I love Easter eggs. My book is littered with Easter eggs in a way that I didn't think it was quite that prevalent. So I plan on every single cover is going to have some little symbol hidden, some little thing there but not there. It's like that image that I showed where she had the pressing her hands against the crystal ball. I liked that because when you first look at the cover, you don't see it, and then you do, and you are like, oh, that's kind of creepy. So I like that, because it just, that the little authors, I will say there are plenty of Easter eggs no one's ever going to get out of my book that they just won't see, they won't understand, but that's okay, because I know it's there, and that's like the cool thing.
Alrighty, Kyra, any final thoughts?
Well, I'll just quickly say, I just want to reiterate what Mackenzie and Cassandra have said. Please just know that first and foremost, this process is iterative. So be patient with yourself and be patient with your cover designer.
Yeah.
Nobody expects perfection from you, and don't expect perfection from them. This is a collaborative process. This is a dynamic process. And even your final cover won't be perfect, but it will be beautiful. It'll be exactly what you need and what your book needs. So that's one thing. And again, just to reiterate, this is your book. I was fortunate in that most of my fans kind of agreed with the struggle that I was having. But at the same time, like, even when I released my final cover, a couple of people were disappointed. It's too bad, so sad, I guess. At the end of the day, it's my book. I like my cover. You guys are going to love your covers because ultimately, like, this is true for every aspect of your book journey. Every single aspect. It is yours. And that's a huge part of the beauty of being a self-published, hybrid published author. You are the one who gets the final say on creative direction, and you are not being molded into something that you are not for the sake of marketability.
Yeah.
So just fully embrace that in all aspects of this, because people can say what they want. And of course, you don't have to be flippant or rude about it, which I doubt any of you will be because you guys are all awesome. But just like, once you come to know what you want, which is an explorative process, stand firm in it and love it.
Absolutely. We suggest the market research part for inspiration more than anything else, because one of the biggest problems is authors will be like, I am a writer, not an artist. I don't know what I want my cover to look like. I have no idea what a good cover should even look like. Like, they'll start from there. And so it's like we say with many other things, look at what other people are doing. Look at what other authors are doing. Look at people who you admire. And that's your place to start. So with that, I want to thank Cassandra for her time today. Thank you very much. All righty. And as we close things out here today, remember that you are welcome to suggest a topic for future coffee chats or even future double shots where you just get a ton of information from Kyra and myself about something. So remember, you can reach out to us at any of the things down below. You can find us on Instagram, pretty much all corners of the internet. And Kyra, what's our topic for next week?
So officially, our topic for next week will be navigating the importance of diversity in storytelling and representation in publishing. There's a lot of gatekeeping that's happening that doesn't need to be happening. And what we do in our community is about making publishing and storytelling as accessible to as many people as possible.
Chat so nice, we hyped it up twice. Very much looking forward to it. All right, you guys, that's all for today. See you next time.
Bye.